four-time Emmy-nominated producer, Frank Pace, with retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
My brother
Frankie, how you doing today,
Good.
pal?
How the hell are you?
And you better gotta be jealous of me, pal. I'm vertical, nothing hurts. I just noticed I just went to the bathroom there real quick, and there's no such thing as a quick piss anymore, Frank.
Why do we always start the show with talking about your extremities?
Well, I'm not talking about my extremities as much as about the human condition. You know, now it's shake, 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 walk away, up, better shake some more. You know? It's like everything takes an hour.
By the way, that's Derek Harris. So, Billy, you said nothing hurts? Come on.
No, not really.
Come
on.
on.
Nothing I can't live with. You know, I got a few gastrical problems, you know, but
Yeah.
I mean,
you're belching up a storm. Right, I saw right before we came on, you turned around and went,
oh yeah, man. When I was doing stand-up, you know, before this COVID nightmare, I'd be on stage and I was regurgitating into my mouth food like a dog. I couldn't eat. If I was going on at 8 o'clock at night, I couldn't eat anything all day because I would go on stage and actually vomit, you know, into my mouth. That's how bad this GERD is. It's gastral something reflux condition or something like 9/11.
yeah, so now you tell me nothing's wrong.
Yeah, but that's
nothing. You tell me nothing's wrong with you, nothing hurts, and then you gross us out to the end of the earth with your GERD.
So many
I'm not
people
gonna be
just
on
tuned out.
I'm not going to be on the cover of Strength and Health anytime soon, but I mean, relatively speaking, and besides that, a GERD, what's those things that are on the side of your neck?
Goiter.
GERD is a lot better than a goiter.
or a goiter,
A goiter.
which is what our mothers wore.
A goiter or a garter, which is something I'm very familiar with. Yeah, but you think if I gross you out with GERD, imagine if I had a goiter.
We wouldn't be doing this show, that's for sure. Right. No, I'm feeling fine. Nothing's wrong with me.
Well, yeah. I don't see a lot of sympathy in your eyes there, Frank, when you're talking about me and my goiter. The two-headed monster. It'd be good to have a few fresh faces around here.
Yeah. So you addressed the goiter.
The GERD.
You addressed the COVID situation. It's really bad.
Man, I mean, they're talking about in the United States right now, they're talking about one person per minute. I mean, 1,400 people died yesterday. We have a doubter, not a doubter, but Derek and me don't agree on this at all. I mean, I just think it's a global pandemic. I mean, scientists are not lying to us, are they? I mean, well, what makes you think that it's people that are going to die anyway, they put them down on the list for dying of COVID? Is that your premise? I mean...
That's not the premise. That's not the only reason why I'm saying that. But if you look at statistics of disease being diagnosed in hospitals worldwide, certain diseases are, just about all across the board, are all down compared to the year over year. So,
but let me ask you a question. Does that mean that nobody really died of AIDS? I mean, AIDS doesn't kill you, doesn't it? Isn't it a attack your immune deficiency thing, and then consequently you die of something else?
I don't really understand the...
Well, like, you know, you don't really die of AIDS. What happens is you catch AIDS, and then you die of another disease because your immune system is
breaks down.
Yeah, so let's just clarify. I'm not saying that the disease doesn't exist. That's not my point.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
So, what I'm saying is that statistically, if you look at what happens when you get the disease, it doesn't really... There's not a difference in terms of symptoms any different than if you had the flu. And so if a person that has a compromised immune system or is older or has pre-existing conditions, if they get the flu, they're probably going to have the same result as if they get COVID. And in addition to that, so that same person, if had gotten the flu, would have also passed away.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Where did you go to med school?
School of Hard Knocks.
Actually, it's probably better that you don't go to med school because otherwise you don't look for alternative information.
Oh my God Almighty! You're really out there. I think I'm gonna have to go after him. I don't know. I'll give you some credence. Is that when I went back to Ireland for the first time? Right, I was 21 years old, so it was 1970, 1969. And I started making inquiries about my ancestors. How did Grandpa die? How did this guy die? How did this guy die? And all of them, it's tuberculosis. He had TB. He had TB. He had TB. And I said, well, there's no coal mines where I live in Cork. I mean, not everybody could have died of TB. But what it was probably all of them smoked cigarettes down to the nubs. They all had the yellow fingers. You ever see an old picture with the yellow fingers because they smoked it, right? I said, somebody had to die of cancer, right? I mean, but I don't think they were sophisticated enough to know if somebody started coughing a lot and started dying, they just said TB. I think, not everybody could have had tuberculosis in my town.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so in that respect, I can go along with it that, okay, I got high blood pressure, say I've had arthritis, I've got, diabetes, and all of a sudden I catch COVID. And they say, well, he died of COVID because the diabetes got beyond control or whatever. So, I can go along with that. But talking to nurses that are on the ground in California, like my wife is an RN, and her friends are still working, she's not because she's been sick. But some horrific conditions going on. There's people dying in the hallways, man. I don't think it's... they're not dying of having a bad cold,
Well, I don't believe it's 100% as bad as they said. So I'll give Derek 10 to 15% on his over-exaggeration.
Well, I'm treating it like it's bubonic plague, I tell you that. If I catch it from other than you two guys, it's going to have to be Houdini that gets it to me. Because I treat everybody like forget it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should take precautions for sure. Like I said, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that the way it's being reported there's some problems with it.
Have you lost any friends yet? I've lost 4 in New York.
I've lost 3 or 4.
3 or 4 in New York, right?
Yes.
So when it first
one out here. One out here.
Really, one out here.
Yeah.
So when it first hit, New York was the bellwether.
Epicenter.
Yeah, it was a disaster because nobody knew what to do with it.
Oh yeah, that's better. Did you hear that?
No, what happened?
Oh, there you go.
Was I away from the mic? Is that what happened? She told me to caress the mic. So listen, do you come here often?
Hey, before we move on, I just want to say our guest today will be Jim O'Hara.
Yeah.
Who's a terrific actor from Parks and Recreation. We'll bring Jim on in a few minutes. But let's get back to COVID. And are you going to take the vaccine? The one they shoot up your nose?
Can I snort it?
Yes, you can.
If I can snort it, I'm in. I got the passageway all calmed down already. I'm good there. I'll take it, but I'm not going to be the first online. Them days are gone.
When
I was 19, I would have been the first online.
I had a friend that said, when Fauci puts out his arm, I'm in.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to test the waters.
And I want to verify, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to test the waters. Like, Pfizer, and who's the other company now? It's got there's another company besides Pfizer that's got the 95%.
Merck?
Merck
is Pfizer.
Merdano or something.
Merdano or something?
Yeah.
Who owns the stock in that, too? I want to know.
I guarantee the Trump family owns a lot of stock in that.
Before I stick my arm out there, I want to know who exactly is making money off of this.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah. So speaking of making money,
yeah.
Why don't we go to a new segment in our show? Will be Billy's Tall Tales.
Would you like a tall tale?
Or Billy's Corner, whatever you want. Why don't you tell us one of your tales?
Of trying to make money. I'll give you one of my tales of trying to make money. I had my buddy Blinky. You remember he talked about Blinky all the time.
Absolutely.
He was a chief on the job, my bookmaker partner. And I said to Blinky one day, I said, Blinky, you want to play some cards tonight? We'll play poker. He said, I don't know who's playing. I said, well, the Shark, Shifty, me. He says, wait a second.
Wait a second. Wait, I'm going to stop you. I think you've told this story 3 times. At least 3 times.
Okay, well, I'm going to shift to another story. That was an intro. I'm playing poker. With Shifty. In the back of a pool room. The back of an Italian pool room, right?
Yeah.
There's only 2 pool tables in this small club, like a makeshift bar, maybe a 1-stool bar, and a poker table. But it's a high-stake poker game. I'm like 23 years old. And
When you say high stakes, what do you mean? How
I'm
much?
talking about every pot has like $800-900.
Okay.
You know, so
That's high stakes.
that's for me, back in them days, that was high stake. We're
Sure.
talking 1973,
Sure.
74. So I'm up about $1,800, right, which I got stuck in my sock. Because you don't want to have too much money on the table. I got $1,000 on the table, but every time I win a couple of big pots, I fold 100, so I'm sticking them in my sock. You know,
They're going to go straight to the bookie. They're
But
going to pay your
I'm
debt.
going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that, I'm sticking money in my sock, and the door bursts open. Two guys with masks on, you know, the ski masks, and sawed-off shotguns, what they call hog legs. You know, it's a shotgun that's sawed off. All right, boys, this is a stick in the face, right? Put all the money in the middle of the felt. Now, I'm just a kid. I'm 22, 23 years old. I'm scared shit. I push the money in the middle of the table. Everybody pushes the money in the middle of the table. But I'm not giving up the money in my sock, right? That's a whole different story. I mean, I got 1,800 stuck in my sock. I'm going to get out of here. And I'm sitting next to Shifty. His name is Shiftmacher, by the way. I'm just calling him Shifty because etymologically, that's a nickname. But he's nothing nefarious about it. His name was Shiftmacher, so we called him Shifty. But he was a quick thinker, Shifty. So anyway, we stick the money in the middle of the table. One of the guys takes a shotgun, takes the butt of the shotgun, and he smacks this old man. The guy was probably 75, 77 years old, across the head, and the blood spills all over the felt. I mean, like somebody just cracked open a ripe watermelon, you know? He says, I'm not screwing around, boys. I mean all the money. Now, like I'm in my sock. These guys pulling money out of their ass, right? They're looking to write a check, right? Because everybody's scared shit. This guy, there's blood everywhere, all over the table. So I throw everybody panics except for Shifty. Shifty kept his wits about him. Shifty was a quick thinker. He turns around to me and says, hey, Billy, here's that $1,000 I owe you. I said, no. He goes, yeah. Now, that's a story you know you can't write. You can't make that shit up. But Shifty was on the ball, man.
That's great. Great. I'll look forward to hearing that story again in about 2 weeks.
Probably tomorrow. Probably stick around by the end of the show.
I just thought of an idea. I think we're going to get a board and put it up on the wall, and it's going to be the Billy story list.
The Billy story list?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
so
you better get a big board.
Every time you tell the story twice, we're going to put it on the
He says to me, you must have told me that story what are you going to tell me that story every time until I laugh?
So
the abuse.
So we have a guest today,
Yeah, we got a good guest.
a very good guest by the name of Jim O'Hare.
He's a Mick.
He's a Mick.
How bad could he be? You got to find out where his folks are from.
You're right.
Jim
So,
O'Hare.
Derek, you can get him on. And
Hey, Jim.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
That's my friend Billy O'Connor on the other side.
How are you, Jim? Pleasure to know you, pal.
I read your book, you guys.
You read our lips. You did, huh?
I read your lips, and boy, did they tell me some stuff. Though some stuff, certainly about one in particular actress I already knew.
Yes,
But-
her name will go unmentioned.
Unless you read the book.
Kathy Griffith.
Read the book, you'll know. But yes, not surprised.
So, Jim, congratulations on your career. It's been a nice little run.
It's been surprising. Yeah, it's very funny because I do remember the day, literally the moment. I can relive it in my head when I knew this is what I wanted to do. Like I was on stage at Second City just taking a class, and it just felt so right. Never in a million years did I think it would pay my bills and lead to, such, it's been a lovely career. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it took a little while to get going, didn't it?
It did. Yes. I moved to Los Angeles with a mutual friend of ours, as you know, Mr. Patrick Cannon.
Right.
And we moved here in 94. And at that time, I was 32 years old. And I've had times where I'm like, oh, man, what if I had just come out to L.A. earlier, maybe this or that. But you know what? I think things happen when they're supposed to happen, why they're supposed to happen. So I think it all played out just fine. But yeah, I was 32 before I even moved to Los Angeles.
You know, it's funny. I was in my 30s when I started producing.
Wow. Yeah, because, reading the book, I didn't know you were an ad guy.
I was an ad guy for sure, and that's how I segued into producing through my clients.
Yeah, it makes sense because let me tell you something. I have been doing this a lot of years now, and if there's one thing I have learned, and I don't mean to cut down other people because every job is so important. I do get that, but watching a line producer do their magic is really amazing. Like I have seen line producers make things happen that I thought, well, this is over. This can't continue today. This is whether it was weather related or whatever the issue might have been, and somehow they tell the actor, calm down, go to your trailer, it'll all be okay. And these line producers get on and they just make it happen. And I know that's what you did and still do for a lot of things. And I am blown away by what you guys make happen.
And we are blown away by what you make happen.
Let me ask you both the question as a layman. Line producer, what's the difference between a line producer and a regular producer?
Yeah, that's the way they sort of negate what we do. We're really the producers.
Yeah,
a line producer is really the producer. All of those executive producers and co-executive producers and staff writers and everything, they just get producer credits.
So the line producer is the guy on the floor at the moment, the guy getting it done?
Right.
He's also the guy who gets the phone call when everything is blowing up.
Yep.
And has to put the fires out and calm it down, whether it be talent related or location
or writer related. Or writer related. Writers having a meltdown.
So you guys are like MacGyver, right? You got to fix it.
Exactly right.
Figure out a way to fix it.
Exactly right.
Let me ask Jim a question because he said that he first realized that he wanted to do this for a living when you were back in the city. Is that right? You were on stage?
Yeah.
Were you doing improv at the time or were you doing sketch comedy?
I began doing, I was a radio and a DJ in a little town called Rensselaer, Indiana. And I had gotten a strange phone call one day, and this was a weird little radio station, and we would do pig reports, but it was my first radio gig, and I was thrilled to have it. But the secretary said, "Jim, some guy wants to talk to you off air." So I did during a commercial break, and he said, "I come through here a lot. My daughter goes to St. Joe College. I think you're funny, and down the road, if you ever think about it, Second City, I just think you would appreciate Second City." Well, of course, I'd heard of Second City. Who hasn't? It's iconic. And when that gig ended, that phone call stuck in my head. And I wish I knew who the man was because I kind of owe him a lot because that is what began the path. And so I went back to Chicago. I started the classes at Second City. And in the day when I started, it was you were on the main stage where Belushi was, where Aykroyd was, where, Murray. You were on the hallowed grounds of the stage where they performed. And it was an improvisation class. Martin DeMott was my teacher, and he had us get up there and do whatever. And I got that first laugh, and it felt, I don't know, I could even get tingly thinking about it. It just felt right. And I thought, oh God, I just love this. And then the more I took the classes, the more I realized this is what I want to do. Again, not thinking I'd get to do it, to pay my bills, but I thought I'm always going to do this, whether it's, through whatever avenue I can while I'm working a job, and so, it was Second City. So I did begin doing improvisation. For many years, that's kind of all I did was improv. And then I got in with a comedy group. One of them was with Patrick Cannon, and we started this 6-person troupe, and we were just kind of all like-minded. And next thing you know, shows are being written, and we became, in the day, because we're talking at this point, late 80s, 87, 88, we're doing shows in Chicago that were so high-tech compared to, nowadays, a kid could do it on their phone. So believe me, nowadays, no one would think a thing of it. But at the time, Pat and this guy, Ned Crowley, one of our buddies, they mostly did the writing, and they created these shows where we would run off stage and then we would shoot up onto a screen where we were a cartoon. And that just wasn't done in those days. And so anyway, and then because of all that, I started working at other theaters in Chicago and just realized this acting thing, this is where my heart is.
Did you guys do Stumpy during those times?
That was the last show. Well, no, it was the second to last show we did in Chicago, because Pat Cannon again wrote this show called Stumpy's Gang, and it was the craziest show you've ever seen.
Was it a play? Was it a play?
It was a theater piece. It was a 90-minute one act, and it was blood and Twinkie and incinerators, creatures. There were mutants. It was. And Frank, you know Patrick Cannon, so you shouldn't be a bit surprised by any of this. But his mind is wild, and he came up with this theater piece. And I've said this. I know Pat heard it because I said make sure you watch Seth Meyers. One night when I was on Seth Meyers, I owe Pat Cannon a lot of my career because he created this role that the piece was. There were two other humans in it, but they were just they came and went quickly. It was basically me with puppets. And I played this deranged dude, and I kept these mutant puppets that I was supposed to incinerate because they were genetic mistakes. And I was supposed to kill them. But in my mind, I was raised by this Wagnerian mother, and I was raised on kid shows. And so I created my own puppet show with these creatures, but they would spew blood when they sang. And I mean, it was lunacy. It was lunacy. And it became a cult thing in Chicago where, I was doing other shows at the time. And so we did a normal run of it. Then we extended, and then we were doing midnight shows. And I would show up to the theater coming from another theater where I just did some other show. And there would be people lined up, like dressed as my character.
Wow.
Damn, this has got nuts. And it really was crazy. I'd be at the end. I'm sure people had bets if I was going to survive every performance because the fat guy sweating his ass off, and it was crazy. People said they would watch the little sweat dot begin on my back as it just grew into this, where my whole outfit turned into one color. And then after the run, we just all did some soul searching, and Pat and I said, let's bring it to Los Angeles because it was just crazy enough. We thought it could work there. And, and by this point, the talk is LA amongst my actor friends. It's got to, you hear about pilot season and, you want it anyway. So I wanted to go. I wanted to give it a shot. Pat wanted to give it a shot. And so the two of us loaded up a 14 or 16 foot something Hertz Penske truck and, loaded up the farm, and we moved to Beverly. Because we just loaded everything we had was in this truck,
including your hopes and dreams,
including our hopes and our dreams, and a dog, and one day a bee came through the window and stung me in the eye. It was like, okay, this isn't supposed to. I just felt like maybe we're making a terrible mistake, but we ended up here, and then we did open the show here. And the reason I say that Pat did me such a favor was, for actors, any actor, knows what it's like. The toughest part at first is getting representation, because without representation, I mean, you mentioned that in your book too. I mean, it's you got to have reps. You just do, because it's the old catch-22. Well, what have you done for me? Well, I just got here. I don't have anything to show, so it's tough to get. And then Stumpy's opened, and just because of how the piece is set up with me is on stage for almost all of it. I was getting phone calls to have meetings. And so next thing you know, I did have an agent. And so my first pilot season, I landed a pilot, and and of course at the time I thought, damn, I messed up. I should have been doing this for years. Well, I learned real quick that doesn't happen every time. You don't get a pilot every season. You don't get because actually the same day I booked the pilot, the very next day I booked a film. And I was just like, well, this is how it is. What the hell have I been doing all my life?
So many hard careers out there. This is terrific.
What are people doing anywhere but here? Where's the damn Maserati? Let's get moving on this. And then you realize real quick, that is not how it continues, at least not for me, and I think for most people. But it was enough to let me realize if I wanted acting to be a career more than a hobby, I did need to stay here. I did need to be in Los Angeles. I love Chicago. That's where my heart is. When I landed O'Hare at Midway, that's home. But it's just I mean, now, thankfully, they have 4 or 5 shows shooting there. I mean, it's definitely changed. But for many, 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 many years, you got maybe a commercial you would grab, or maybe, a quick co-star if something was shooting nearby. But it was tough to make a living, at least the kind of living I wanted to make.
I think that seems to be the case with anybody that, say, graduates from college and thinks they want a career in show business. The first thing they think of, am I going to L.A.? Am I going to New York? Nobody says, do I want to go to Chicago? Do I want to go to it's LA, New York,
I think they make the mistake of thinking they can try to get a job in their local town. If they live in Jacksonville, or they live in Orlando, or they live in, Atlanta now you can make a living. But if you live in Kansas City, it's just as hard to get a job in Kansas City or Jacksonville as it is in Los Angeles. So I always tell them, get your ass out here and struggle here.
But now you're a small fish in a big pond.
Whatever.
You know what I mean?
You're the same small fish, and it's the same pond size in Jacksonville as the pond size it is here. They're just more or less fish proportionately.
Yeah, and I've done theater in Kansas City, and there's some of the greatest actors, but they're driving their butts all over the place. They're driving to Chicago for an audition. Some drove to Atlanta if there was a big enough audition. Either are here or not, and I get it if you don't want to. This is not for everybody. It's not easy. LA is crazy expensive. I mean, not as crazy as New York, but still crazy expensive. So it's not easy, but this is where the opportunities are. At least most of them. Certainly not all of them, but most of them are here.
But your career as an actor, like anybody else's career, is one big scramble after the other. It's one big dice roll. I mean, not only you, I mean, you have to have a lot of confidence in your own ability, especially when you're doing casting and getting turned down, and you're not making a living and things ain't working out right. But what about your wife? You're a married guy, right?
No, I'm not. But also, let me correct you. I've never been told no. Never in this business. Dear God, I don't know who you've been talking to. But no, please, it's mostly told no. It's mostly for whatever reason, you're not the right guy, you're whatever. No. I came out here a single guy, so I didn't have any of those pressures, which has been great. And at the time, Pat Cannon, who moved out here, we came out here together. He was single also. So the two of us could kind of pick up our lives and just do it. And then, of course, he ends up with the beautiful Barry Halley that we all know and love. At the time, it was just me. And the tough part, I think, about what we do, if you are in a tight relationship, is it is a ridiculous career. It is so ridiculous. You don't know what's happening day to day. You can be so down about something, and then the phone rings, and it's your manager going, listen, they want you in Mexico for 2 weeks to do a blah, blah, blah. Or that phone call doesn't come in, and you're sitting around. It's a lot. I think it's a lot. I've been so blessed, and I am every day thankful for it. I have never, since I moved here in 94, I've never had to have any other job. I've never had to waiter. I've never had to drive, a cab or an Uber or whatever the thing is. And I don't take that for granted for 1 second. And believe me, not every year was champagne and roses.
Sure.
It was ramen and whatever else, but it was always enough. Once I got reps, I did pretty much kind of steadily do guest spots. And, you'd get what they call top of show, which, Frank, let me tell you guys something. I learned so much in your book about things like what other people make. Because, as an actor, and now I'm at a point, which is lovely.
You were at both ends of that spectrum. You were at the top of show point of your career, guest star point of your career, and then you were at the he had that great 7-year run on Parks and Recs, when every year you knew what you were going to be making for the next year, and that's the greatest feeling in the world for an actor or a producer.
There's no better feeling in the world for an actor than when you wrap in March and you say, see you in August.
Yep.
Wow.
There is nothing, and thankfully, again, I always seem to work during those stretches, but even if I hadn't, come August, sometimes late July, depending on whatever the schedule was, you're coming back. And that is the greatest feeling ever,
Yeah.
ever for an actor. And I would imagine a producer also. Yes.
Absolutely. I know on Head of the Class, after the second year or after the third year, one of the two, we got picked up for 2 more years.
Oh,
I said, "Oh my,
Touchdown.
oh my God,
touchdown. Yes.
that
me
was the
tell you-
greatest feeling."
That is the greatest. Parks always fought ratings. We always fought it. So we never breezed through, the May, what's the word I'm looking for?
Pilot season.
Not pilots. In May, the pickups.
Oh,
The
May sweeps, upfronts.
upfront. Dear God, yeah.
Right.
We never, other than the last 2 seasons when we knew we were always coming back. Other than that, we would all be on this text chain with each other. With our co-creators were Mike Schur and Greg Daniels, and Mike was our main, because Greg pretty much went back to the office after we got up and running, and Mike stayed with us. And so we were on this text chain, which we still have to this day. It's called the Parks Family Text, and we're still on each other's faces, probably more than we should be. But we were like, what have you heard? What have you heard? And because we had Amy Poehler, so we're like, well, she must be getting news from somebody and all this kind of stuff. And we've heard the nightmare stories. Like Rob Lowe will tell a story that he was on the plane to New York from L.A. to talk about whatever show he had that had been picked up. When he landed, he was informed that the show now has not been picked up. And they will, adjust his accommodations to send him back to L.A. So,
and Rob Lowe was probably out of a series for like 10 minutes before he got his next one. I've never seen a guy who's been in so many series in my life as Rob Lowe.
Yeah.
Well, the West Wing comes to mind immediately. It was a
course.
long run for him. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like the one he's on now is going to go for a while. Yeah, no, Rob has had this incredible career. And the thing about Rob Lowe, he can tell a story, you guys. Damn, can he tell a story? And he's been there. He's met them. He has made out with them in camera. As a matter of fact, I don't know.
I'm sure you could spin a pretty good yarn yourself.
Dude,
I can picture you at the end of the pub with a pint of Guinness in your hand and spilling a few yarns with no problem at all.
I can tell a story, but I don't have the makeout stories that Rob Lowe had. As a matter of fact, when we were doing Parks, so we were talking one day, and between scenes and whatever, and he was telling me, this one or that one, and so he literally taught me, because see this face doesn't get the leading man role, and this face, if he gets the best buddy, it's not the best buddy who gets the girl. He's just the best buddy. So there's very little smooching going on in my career.
Well, I'm going to stop you. Now, what do you and Billy Joel have in common?
This is true, my friend. This is true. We have
what
both,
do you
we have
have
both
in common?
Christy Brinkley, yes.
I think you broke up. Can you say that again, please? Just make sure I hear you correctly.
Yes, Billy Joel and I have both kissed Christy Brinkley.
And why did you kiss Christy Brinkley?
Because for 7 years, she was my wife.
See that? So that face does get the pretty face. Now, let me ask you a question. Why do you think Christy Brinkley was your wife on that show? What?
I know. I can tell you exactly why.
I'll see if your theory is the same as mine.
Well, the fact is, because I actually know what happened behind the scenes, my character Jerry was very much the put upon character on the show. They would, joke about him. He was, as one of the characters said, I was the schlemiel and the schlemazel of the office. So it became, in the writer's room, they had no more fun ever than when they were writing ways to slam Jerry, just slam him. So they decided, if they want Jerry to be able to hang around, he can't have a terrible life, because otherwise, why is he not putting a gun in his mouth? So Mike said to me one day, he goes, here's what we're thinking. What if you had kind of like a supermodel wife? Like when you go home, that's who you go home to. And of course I was like, what? Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's an amazing idea. So he said, like a Christy Brinkley type. So you know how that is, Frank. People make pitches, and what about this? Like the other thing about Parks. Oh, go ahead.
I said pie in the sky pitches.
Pie in the sky pitches, and we were all allowed to make them. The 7 years on Parks, after we would do a table read, we could all pitch ideas, for a guest star, or like, hey, what if so and so, whatever. So the pitch was to get the idea rolling, Christie Brinkley. So what ends up happening, I find out later, they actually make the offer to Christie, never thinking there'll be an acceptance. Christie mentions to her daughter, Sailor, who was on Dancing with the Stars last year, they want me to do this show called Parks something. And Sailor goes, Parks and Recreation? She goes, yeah, I think it's that one. And she goes, oh, Mom, that's my favorite show. And she said, well, they want me to play someone's wife. And Sailor told me later, she goes, I was scrambling in my head. Okay, Ron has heard this. And then she realized, she goes, Jerry Gergich's wife? And Christie goes, I think that's it. She goes, Mom, please, please, please. So that is why Christie Brinkley took the role of Gail Gergich on Parks and Recreation, because her daughter was obsessed with the show. And so her daughter always flew in whenever she shot. Whenever Christie flew in to shoot, Sailor would be with her. And that's how she ended up there, because they wanted Jerry to have this unbelievable life at home. And he did. He had Gail as his wife. He had these 3 actresses who were stunning as his daughters. And they gave him, as the doctor in one of the episodes said, the biggest penis he'd ever seen.
That's where I was going. That's where I was going, sir. That's what I was going.
And let me tell you, how that happened. One of the writers happened to be next to me at the urinal, and life and art sometimes
sometimes mix.
Well,
how that works. Yes.
Billy tells me that the Irish aren't amply endowed, but
the Irish curse. We like
the
Irish.
Damn the Irish curse.
Damn that Irish curse. Speaking of which, what are you, second, third generation? Where are your people from over there?
Third, grandparents. So wait, I'm fourth. My grandparents were born here, but then their parents. So that would make me fourth, right?
You have any idea what county they're from?
I believe Galway.
Galway, huh?
Yeah, I believe, because there's plaques on the different walls in different places. Yeah, but sadly, everyone, my grandparents are gone. My parents are both gone. My dad died very young. He was 50, had just turned 57. And then my mom passed, it's been about 8 years. But the thing about my parents, because my dad, typical, just a hard-working Irish guy, he worked 8 to 5, food on the table, just this great guy. So he never understood what the hell I was doing. Like, it never made any sense to him. Like, you work all day and then you go to a theater at night and they don't pay you? Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, so he never got it, but he was at every opening night. He, whenever a review, a theater review would come out in the papers in Chicago, take a look, he's throwing it to, all the guys at work. So
sure.
He was so proud of it, and yet I know he didn't understand it. It made no sense in his world. And then, unfortunately, so he passed when I was 30 or 29 or 30. But thankfully, my mom was here. So my mom got a chance to do red carpets. She got, she had some, she didn't see me all the way, but halfway through Park, she passed away. But I'll never forget, one of my favorite moments in my life was in 96. So I had been here 2 years, and I booked a remake of Harvey. The old, with the rabbit.
Sure,
Jimmy Stewart, yeah. So it was Swoosie Kurtz and Harry Anderson and Leslie Nielsen, Jessica Hecht, myself. Anyway, just this great, I was so excited. It was going to be 6 weeks in Vancouver. So while I was there, I set it all up with the producer, and I flew my mom in. The stretch limo picks her up at the airport in Vancouver. They drive her to the set where we're doing a night scene, and they've shut down a street, and it's my scene. It's just me at a phone booth looking into a restaurant, anyway, blah, blah, blah. And she pulled up, and she just started crying. And it was because she said to me, she comes up to me, hey, Mom, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, this is all for you? I go, well, no, it's for the film. But she goes, no, where are the other actors? I go, well, no, yes, tonight is, we're doing my coverage of my things. And I don't know. It was a very, it was a lovely moment. Yeah, it was a lovely moment.
I know that with my parents, who have now both departed, they were out here one year for the head of the class rap party. So they were walking, talking, and talking to people that they had been watching on television, and they were just two little people from New York, and it was sort of like a dream come true for them, and I'm very glad they had that moment on set.
My mom got to have lunch with Hal Linden, and she told him. Now I never knew any of this. She told him in front of me, and she met. It was when Hal was doing. I think it was called The Boys Are Back. I could be wrong about that. And Suzanne Plachette was the wife, and so she met Suzanne, but she got to we had lunch with Hal, and she goes, I have to tell you something, Mr. Linden. You're the only other man I've ever thought about. I was like, no. Oh. And she goes, I've told my husband that because we used to watch Barney Miller. I'm like, please stop this conversation. Please.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty. I know you did two Lopez's, George Lopez's. Were you on, by any chance, the same episodes that Nick Offerman was on?
I was not. And let me tell you.
Did you guys ever talk about it? Did you guys ever talk about that?
Oh, of course. And as a matter of fact, I told you, we have this thing called the Parks Family Text. So the other day, Retta from Parks texted all of us a picture of Nick with George and,
Belita?
oh my God.
Belita Moreno?
The mother.
Belita Moreno.
Belita. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How awesome is Belita? Oh my God. Yes. So it was a picture of, and something else was happening in the background, and people are like, what is this about? And I go, hey, our boy Nick recurred on, the George Lopez show. And I wrote, and don't forget, and Nick goes, yeah, I'm pretty important, aren't I? And I wrote, hey, I did 2 episodes, technically recurred, so I'm pretty something big too, aren't I? And then Pratt, no. No. Yeah, so it's all about busting balls. But I don't know if you're going to remember this, Frank, because, you have many million other things to worry about. But I did an episode, life went on. Then I got a call from my manager saying the casting director asked if I would come in and read for an actor who couldn't be at the table read because he had booked, I don't know what he was doing, but he couldn't be at the table read. So I went to the table read just to read the role, and they hired me again and got rid of him.
That's the way it happens.
Is that the way it happens?
That's the way.
It can happen anyway. That's just one of the ways it can happen.
That's like the Lana Turner at the soda fountain moment.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And you remember.
Nick and I talked about that because I was the Lopez watcher, so I had seen Nick because it was such a weird relationship, him and Belita. I mean,
Yeah, I'll just tell our audience, that Nick was like a 35-year-old guy, if that, and Belita was a 60-year-old Mexican woman, and they were dating.
Yeah,
on a show.
On a show. Yeah. Because in real life, he's married to Megan Mullally in real life.
Yeah.
But
Belita's character was just brilliant. I mean, just awfully, awfully wonderful and terribly heartwarming. Because, she was not the greatest mother, but you fall in love with those characters.
And Nick was supplementing his income by woodworking in those days because he wasn't making enough money as an actor to pay his bills. So he was a woodworker and a carpenter.
And when he met Megan, they were doing a play together. He had no idea who Megan was. Nick is not a TV guy. He had never seen a Will and Grace. So he didn't know Megan Mullally was Megan Mullally. And then next thing you know, and
Will and Grace.
Yeah, sure. From Will and Grace. One of my happiest things for Nick is, and it's just the nature of our business, so he gets with Megan. Now, Nick is a wonderful actor in his own right, and he was very much like me. Guest stars, maybe a pilot that blows up, but working and making things.
Scramble.
Yeah, just out there. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So he hooks up with, Megan, and they fall in love, and it's all great. Well, now, there's a lot of events. She's on one of the biggest shows on television, and so he's at the red carpet. It's where they're saying, would you please step aside? Because I'm sure you've seen that, Frank, where the significant others are many times asked to, would you step aside for a second? Because they really just want the picture of the celebrity. And so Nick had that for a lot of years. So I love that all turned around, and they were both equally sought after on that red carpet. But also, here's how great, and this is Nick's story to tell, but I've heard him repeat it, so I'll repeat it. Once Parks started taking off, we were all at some, NBC event maybe, or maybe the TCA's Television Critics Association, whatever it was. So we're all there. And Nick tells the story. He goes, I'm on the carpet, and I start hearing people going, Nick, 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 Nick. And he's thinking, wow.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah. And then he looks, and he realizes none of the cameras are on him. And he looks behind him is Nick Lachey, who had just married. He had just married some model or whatever. Anyway, he's like, there you go. That's showbiz. And that really is showbiz.
For 7 years, you were in every episode but one. Is that correct?
That is incorrect, my friend. I was in every episode. And that makes crazy because IMDb, which, believe me, IMDb
you can't change anything on IMDb.
Right. So it is what it is. It's not a big deal. But I do like, because there was only 5 of us who were in every one of them. And I like that I was one of them.
And also, I believe that you were a recurring in the first 2 years. Is that true? Yeah. So they got away with paying you less money.
They sure did.
For 2 years. And then they upped you to a main star, main credits, and then they had to pay him.
Explain that to me, Jim. What do you mean by, what does it mean by, what does that mean?
Well, first of all, there's, series regulars. There's a little bit of a financial difference when you're a series regular compared to being a top of show guest star, like substantially a big difference, life-changing big difference. Yes. And I think, because this would have been 2009, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, like 4,500 maybe top of show.
I don't think it's 4,500 now.
No. Top of show is more than that now.
Just to be clear, you could be on a show for 2 years and not be a regular. You could be top of show for 2 years.
Even though I was every episode, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Very often they will make a deal for, like $7,500 for a guy who's coming on every week, just so he doesn't threaten to bolt.
That was basically, I mean, I never normally talk numbers, but that was basically what they said. Yes.
Yeah. And then because they know you're not going to bolt because you're going 22 episodes at $7,500 a year, you get residuals. It's a nice little payday.
Sure.
But then when you go.
You're right, because that $7,500, it actually not quite doubles, but it almost does, because series regulars, I think they can air it 2 or 3 times, and that's part of your deal. Mm-hmm. As a guest star, every new airing is a new paycheck.
Right.
So, yes, reruns, I got another nice chunk of money. So it all worked out good. But the story at how this even happened was my agents had actually kind of encouraged me not to take the job because the show was very, very honest with us at the beginning. And they said, here's the deal, because we have 6 regulars. At the time it was Nick Offerman, of course, Amy Poehler, Aubrey Plaza, Aziz, oh my God, who else was there? Aziz, Paul Brandanowitz, who at the time, an actor named Paul Schneider. So they said, these are our 6 people, and we don't know yet what's going to happen. And ultimately, the way I got the gig was I had auditioned for Ron Swanson, the role that Nick Offerman did, which is like crazy because Nick was always their guy, as it should have been. Nobody could have done it better. And so, but they liked something, and they brought me back for Jerry. And then apparently Greg Daniels said to Mike, sure, he's funny. Put him at a desk. It'll work out. So we get the call to do it. And my agents were, again, very honest. And they said, listen, they told us, they don't know what you're going to have to do. And by this point, I've been working a lot. So, and there's nothing wrong with being an extra, but I wouldn't do that again. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't do that. So they said, you might be feeling like there's not a lot going on. But for me, all I kept thinking was these guys, Mike Schur and Greg Daniels, they created characters from The Office like Kevin and Phyllis and Stanley. And they were just office folk who turned into iconic characters.
Like you got to be there to turn into something.
Exactly. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. And let's face it, 7,500 is not terrible money for a week.
No.
My God, it's lovely.
Isn't that
so what-
unusual for an agent to tell you to turn down?
No, agents always they're greedy. They just want to make more.
Really?
Exactly.
They
That's
don't-
not like an
they-
unusual thing for an
they-
agent to say, no, don't take this.
They
role?
don't care about your 85%. They're only concerned about their own 15%.
Exactly.
So,
But I will
Really?
say, in their behalf, their concerns seemed more that they didn't want me to feel like I was being an extra on a show. But I kept thinking, they're not paying me like an extra. They're going to do something with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently what solidified my life at Parks and Recreation was at the end of season 1, which, by the way, and this was not how it normally happens, Frank, you can attest to this. We didn't do a pilot. NBC said, shoot 6 of them. Amy had just had a baby, and they just said, we love her. We want to be in business with Amy Poehler. We're going to do 6 of them. So we shot the 6. And then they needed to do some bumpers, like to throw in just to add to different episodes. They called me and said, listen, any chance, they call my agents, any chance Jim would come out and do some improv with Amy in the forest, just because we got to fill some bumper time. Well, of course. Well, apparently, it went well, the improv with Amy and I, because I love Amy. And
You had a background in improv as well, so that
I
helped.
certainly did, yes. And Amy is the queen. So I was always a little nervous about that, but we just had so much fun. And apparently one of the producers said to the other one, oh, he'll be okay. He's good. So then by the next year, I think the 4th episode of season 2, when I was still not a regular, I got an episode. Like, I was the focus of the episode. And that's when, I think it was the next week, we got the call about negotiating to become a series regular.
that's great.
Yeah.
So that's the deal. Of course, that catapulted you towards now you're a regular. If they're making a whole episode about you.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
great.
And they did it really sweet. We went to a table read, and I knew things were happening because they were, talking now, it goes back and forth with numbers and blah, blah, all that business stuff that has to happen. But I didn't know the deal had closed. And so I sat down at the table read, and they said, we do have another announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim O'Heir is a series regular on Parks and Recreation. I was like, so and everybody was screaming, and yeah, it was just lovely.
Well, I would tell my agent, if I had an agent, I'm not into this business, I would tell my agent, for $7,500 a week, I'll jump rope naked on television. And that's not a pretty sight.
And nobody will watch it.
That's my idea of birth control for the whole country. Look at this man jumping naked.
So Jim, you got to attend a number of Emmy awards. Nothing's worse than getting an Emmy nomination and the winner goes to, and your name is not called.
Well, I've had both happen.
I know that, but I'm going to get to that later.
Yeah, but here's what happened. We go to the first one, and we're all, they have us all sitting together. And Nick Offerman says to all of us, he goes, just so you know, these are not winners' seats. Because we were, like, say you're facing stage, we were to the right. And he goes, I've been at enough of these for Will and Grace to know these are not winner seats. And he was absolutely right. But, you give the obligatory, because the cameras are looking at where you're sitting and all
Proud
that.
to be nominated.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
Exactly.
You've been 5 times, right, Frank?
Go fuck yourself. Yes.
You've been on the losing end, 5 times?
4.
4, but nominated 4 times and always optimistic, I guess, when you go there. And then
Last time I wasn't so optimistic.
Yeah, but your friend is
is it
right.
not
Like,
to be
oh,
nominated?
your show sucks. Your show sucks. Oh,
I'm going to tell you, my wife went to, when Murphy Brown was nominated in 1988, my wife went, we were excited, etc. When Girl Meets World was nominated 3 years in a row from 2014, 15 to 16, Karen said, bring our daughter. Well, I don't want to go.
Let's go through that again.
It's not that much fun for me.
Yeah.
It's all about you anyway. So bring her. She'll like it. So I've been to 4 Emmys, 1 with my wife, 3 with my daughter.
Yes, I get it. Yeah, because when you lose, there's still a great time. The Governor's Ball is like, my first Governor's Ball was who was Placido? Wait, was it? Who's the blind opera singer.
Andrea Bocelli.
Andrea Bocelli.
Andrea Bocelli was singing with Robert Foster at the piano. I mean, it really was wild, and it was crazy. So there's still a lot of fun. But then you see the people who beat you, and you're like, oh, gotta.
Art is subjective. He's not that funny. He's not that good.
But then, then in 2017, you got your chance to accept an Emmy. Why don't you tell us about that?
That was wild because it wasn't for Parks and Recreation. After Parks, the gift of a series that runs for 7 years is that it opens up a lot of doors. All of a sudden, people know who you are. And the other weird thing about Parks that doesn't happen for a lot of shows, but it's happened with Parks, we have become more popular since we've been gone, like exponentially more popular. So it's gotten crazy. So
it's almost got a cult.
It's pretty wild. So I get a call from my manager. She said, listen, there is a soap opera who wants to do like a visual thing with you and Monica Horan, who played on Everybody Loves Raymond. She was Brad Garrett's wife and the wife of the guy who created Everybody Loves Raymond. So
Phil Rosenthal?
Phil Rosenthal. It's his wife, Monica. So would you want to do just 2 days on this soap opera? So, okay, we read the script. It's very funny. We're on a plane and we're obnoxious. Very typical. So whatever, that happens. I don't know, 6 months later, it comes and goes. I never even watched stuff that I'm in, so I never saw it. I knew nothing about it. So I'm heading to Chicago to shoot some film that actually I got to shoot at Wrigley Field, like on the field. It was crazy, but I digress. I'm on the way there. I'm in the car, to the airport, and the phone rings, and it's, hi, Jim, this is something Bell, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what is this? And he goes, I want to congratulate you on your Emmy nomination. And I'm like, uh-huh. Now, I'm immediately thinking I'm being ball busted by one of my buddies. Like, that's my first thought is Canon or, whatever other one. So while this man's talking, I'm going on, I just Google real quick, motherfucker, it's real. So he's, from the Philip Bell company that does soap operas, whatever, and he was legit, and he was calling me to do it. So that happens, and it's lovely, and you get sent things, and people call and congratulate you. But I'm not thinking in a million years this is a thing that will be ever to the point of. Now remember, it's a daytime Emmy. It's not the nighttime. So it's getting closer and closer. And then friends of mine, do you guys know Wendy Liebman, the comedian?
Yes, I know who she is. I don't know her, but I know she is.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman. And Craig Shoemaker, also a comedian. Anyway, they're buddies of mine. They were doing a show at Vitelli's in
Studio City?
Yeah, exactly. So it was the same night as the award. So I thought, I want to go to their show because I know I'm not going to win this award. So I wasn't going to go. But then I get the call from CBS. Jim, it would mean the world to us if you would go to the award show, blah, 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 blah. We feel very good about your chances. And it was all, a pep talk. Okay, and they did give you the car and the hair and the makeup at home, and, all lovely, lovely, lovely. So I go, but I say to the driver, because I found out, my publicist told me, your category is going to hit around 5:25. So you should be out of there by 5:40, 5:45 at the latest. Perfect. So I say to the driver, listen, dude, I'm not here all night. I'm going to be here until like 5:45. I'm going to call you, and then if you would, we're going to shoot over to this other place. I'm going to have dinner and then see the show. Okay, he don't care. He's just doing his job. So the awards start, and it's, this and that, and it's all happening. And then my category comes up, and they, the guy with the camera's on his knee in front of me. Now, I will say this. After having listened to Nick every year when we showed up to the Emmys where he would say, again, not good seats, not winning.
Wow.
Every year he said it. Not winner's seats. I was center on the aisle, and I thought that was odd, but I still wasn't putting anything, whatever. I don't know. I just, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and the girl next to me who I had done my scenes with that, recently, because I'd come back to do another guest spot on the show, and we're just chatting. Now it's, my category, and so I'm getting ready for and they start showing clips. And the way they do for daytime Emmys, for the guest star, best guest star, it's men and women combined. So they're showing these amazing, like the first clip, Tobin Bell, and he's crying and he's upset and whatever. Then they show Nicole Nichelle, the woman from Star Trek.
Sure.
They show her. She's
Black
in a,
lady.
Black woman. She's in a hospital bed, dying, saying goodbye to her son. And it's like, oh my God, there's your winner. God bless. Just give the award. Then they show the next one, and she does whatever she's doing, but she's ripping her heart out. Blah, blah, blah. And then they show mine, and I'm doing some funny. I'm like, oh, come on. I couldn't even look at it. So now they're going to announce the winner, and it was Larry King, and I feel like Larry King. Yes, I feel like it was that girl from Entertainment Tonight, the one with the legs. She had her legs insured. Mary Hart.
Mary Hart.
I think it was Mary Hart. I could be wrong on that, but
she didn't age for 30 years. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So whatever, and the winner is, and again, the camera's a foot and a half from me. The guy on his knees, ready to shoot me, given the obligatory. And Larry King goes, the winner is Jim O'Heir. And you guys, if you go, it's out in the world somewhere. There's clips of it. I just stared because in my head at the moment, I thought, wow, that is so familiar. The girl next to me from the show starts like punching me, and I realize, oh shit, that's my name. So I start getting up, and then as I realize, I have prepared nothing because I'm out the door at 5:45 for a show. I'm not winning this.
You called on your improv facility.
Yes. So as I'm walking up there, I'm just like, you're an idiot. And of course, mixed with don't trip. Because fat guy tripping, that's going to be all over the internet.
Could do wonders for your career.
Yeah, if I face plant, that's all over the internet. So I get up there, and apparently it went well because what I just did speak from the heart. And I will tell you, one thing I learned, I think very incorrectly, soap actors have been given a bad, not that they're disrespected, but I don't think they get the same credit that a primetime actor gets or a film actor. But let me tell you something. They work their asses off. They do, because Frank, if they do 8 pages a day, they're doing 40 pages a day.
And they got their lines written on the bottom of lamps, on the ashtrays. They got their lines written all over the place.
And I learned real quick also the first day I did it, the girl said to me that I was working with, she said, Jim, if you're not liking something, stop and swear, because otherwise they're going to use it. Mm-hmm. Like there's no, like, oh, listen, I felt like, how you can talk to the director and go, I was wondering, could I, no. Once the words are out, if they're in somewhat correct order, they're going to use it. Yep. So she said, if you're not liking it, stop and swear, because then they have no choice but to do it again. So anyway, I got up there and I gave my little speech. And again, I could not have been more. And then you go backstage, and that's a world I didn't expect. You go into this room and there's like 100 reporters there, and that was crazy. And then you go back to your seat. But what I can't do now is leave at 5:45
and go to Vitello's.
No, now I got to do press after the awards. I got to go to the CBS party. Blah 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 blah. But it is lovely to have. I forget about it mostly. The first time I did Seth Meyers after I won, you stand off behind the curtain, and then the stage manager is going to tell you when to go out, and they begin my intro, and he goes, Emmy award winning, and I really thought, oh. Who's going out before me? Like that again. It's still, I don't know, but it's lovely.
Where do I know that name from? I love that line. That sounds familiar.
It does, and I will tell you, it doesn't hurt when your people are negotiating things to go, well, he's an Emmy Award winner. Anyway, so it's all lovely. I have no complaints about it. I just could not have been more surprised. Could not have been.
We could not be more surprised and delighted with the guest that you've been. You've been just terrific, Jim.
That's it. That was fast.
Terrific. How long is it? 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. My God. It felt like 10 minutes.
Yeah, dude, you're an easy guy to talk to, man. Like I said, you're like the guy at the end of the pub with a pint. I can just give you a lift. Say, how's it going down there, pal? You know.
Well,
2 hours later, that's how it's going. Yeah.
again, thank you so much. You've had a fabulous career. You really are rags to riches story. There are a lot of rags to riches stories, but you're a good one to have.
Oh, thanks,
I got
Frank.
just a quick exclamation point I want to ask Jim and
Why don't you ask him a question mark?
I am going to ask.
Why don't you ask him a question mark?
A question mark instead of an exclamation
Instead
point.
of an exclamation point.
I noticed that the latest thing you got coming out is My Babysitter, the superhero. Is that right?
Yeah, I shot that. That's been in post for quite a while. I don't know what's happening with that. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't. But
my question to you is, when you make a movie, like say you make The Other Morgan or whatever movie you make,
Yeah.
how long does it usually take from when you can it to when it gets on the air?
Depends if it's any good.
Exactly. And it also depends on who's behind it. Like I did a Soderbergh film a couple years ago, and it's amazing how quick that turned around. Because it's Steven Soderbergh, and that's what it is. And him, just to give you a real quick story, never, ever, I was there, we shot in Atlanta. I was there, I think, for 2.5 weeks. Never was I back at my hotel later than 2:00 in the afternoon. He shot all natural light, no having to reset. It was unbelievable. But again, it's Steven Soderbergh. He can do what he wants to do. But little films, it depends. Sometimes they have to find more money to get released or to get more post production. So it just kind of depends.
That's interesting. I was just curious how long it takes after they put it in the can to get on the screen. So it could be, it's a crapshoot.
Yep.
Did you say something about Clint Eastwood?
I said, yeah. Clint Eastwood is very much like that.
Like Soderbergh?
He's so fast.
Yeah.
I think Andy Garcia or somebody said on a Clint Eastwood movie he heard for the first time, that's lunch and we'll wrap for the day.
I love that.
Because in 6 hours he had made his day, and he wasn't going to shoot anything more because he knew he would make the next day and a day after that and a day after that. He just did a take. He got the take that he knew he liked and moved on. He didn't shoot protections or anything like that. He just got it and moved on.
And also, a guy like that, same with Soderbergh, their crew, they know them, and they
That's
know
correct.
how they work, and
correct.
it's just a machine. It's a beautiful dance that they do, and then you can wrap at lunch. I love that.
Great. Well, that's a wrap for us, Jim. It was terrific.
Pleasure.
Terrific having you
Real
with
pleasure,
us.
Jim. Real pleasure.
And,
Congrats on your book, you guys. I loved it. I am someone who likes a little bit of the dirt. I can't lie. And so it was fun to read some of it, but also just really interesting things about the business. And of course, then you guys go into sports, and that's lovely. Congrats.
So much.
Great. Thanks
Appreciate
again,
it.
Jim.
Thank you, pal.
I'll see you soon.
Yes. Bye.
Yes.
Nice meeting you, brother.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
So that was fun.
Yeah, what an easy guy to talk to. Like I said, just like sitting around a pub talking to a guy at the end of the bar.
Yep, and we could have talked to him for another hour.
Easily.
I guess.
We didn't have much to say, Frank. All we had to do was just get him going, wind him up, let him go.
That's the way I like him.
Oh, it's the best way to be.
Except with you.
With me, you gotta
sometimes you get a little wound up.
You get the leash.
I gotta pull you.
the leash.
I gotta pull you back.
Pull it back into reality.
I gotta pull you back.
Oh.
So what else do we have to talk about today?
Well, speaking of reality,
he spoke about the book, though.
And he liked it.
And he liked the book, and he took a picture with himself on Facebook.
which was really nice.
It was really nice.
Really nice. And for him to be in the business and saying he learned a lot about the business from reading the book is kind of cool. Because I certainly learned a lot about the business because it's your life story. I mean, I don't know much about show business, but you don't have to know a lot about show business to like that book.
Well, to all the university professors out there, this is really a must-read.
Sell it in your class.
A must-read for you. All your students should buy it.
Should have
because
to read it.
it's a primer on production.
Clamor for it.
So Nostradamus.
Nostradamus nothing. It's talking about getting shocked back to reality. I
Yes.
guess you're starting to come around. What are you, 5-3 now?
5-3 now. I'm on an inexorable march to 500.
Don't worry, we'll all both end up in the same place, and that's if I get lucky. If I get lucky, I could bounce all the way back up to 500. I think, what am I now? Am I 500 or am I 6?
Yeah, 5 and 6.
5 and 6. Okay, yeah. Another New Orleans last week let me down.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to go against New Orleans again, not for revenge, just
Okay.
because I like the other side of the game. They're playing Atlanta. New Orleans looked really good against San Francisco last week. The game opened up at 10, which makes sense. New Orleans at home, they're favored by 10. Went all the way down to 7. So being the contrarian that I am, I'm going to take Atlanta plus 7 against New Orleans. And I gave Derek a game earlier, which you haven't seen. So,
By the way, you're picking any game you want. You're picking a game for me.
yes.
Yeah,
That's right. I'm picking
think
any game I want.
Next week, I'll pick the games, and I'll actually put it on the screen.
You don't even know who's playing. You think they're playing with hockey or hoops?
Well, I definitely don't pay attention to sports, but I will pick it from now on just to make it even harder. Okay, so New England's playing against Houston. Houston's at home, and New England at -2. And just to throw in a harder situation, Antonio Brown has now joined.
Yeah, he did nothing his first week.
He did nothing.
He did nothing.
Okay, so and New England's had a difficult time.
No, Antonio Brown. See that? Antonio Brown's not on New England.
That's not the point. The point is there's more pressure now on New England because he's now joined Tom Brady. You get what
In
I mean?
Tampa Bay. What's Tampa Bay got to do with New England?
You don't think that in the minds of those two teams, they're affected by whatever happens with the other team?
No.
Oh, come on.
No. Please.
Belichick right now is working hard.
Yeah, he did a good job Monday night. I mean, it was a Sunday.
So I'm going to say, I said I'm not going to pick against the home team. I'm not going to pick against a dog on the road, but I'm going to go with Cam Newton this week and New England.
You like New England laying 2 points against Houston.
Yeah, I don't know. It really fights everything in my instincts, but I'm going to go with New England. And they played on Monday night, and they shouldn't win. I'm going to go with New England.
There you go. He's going to go with New England. They're
on the road. They play. I'm going to go with Houston. How's
now
that?
you go with Houston?
Now I'm going with Houston.
So you're not fighting everything that you believe to be. If you might be the guy like the horse betting.
Now I'm going with Houston.
The guy's tired of losing, right? He's betting horses all his life. He's tired of losing. Finally, he says, all I got to do is pick one horse that I know can't lose. He waits 5 years before he finds the perfect horse to dump all his money on. This one horse after 5 years. He comes up to the window. He's going to bet $50,000 on the nose for this horse to win. And he goes, all right. He goes, I want to bet $50,000 to win on Lightning in the 4th race. And the woman says, Lightning? He says, never mind, Revolver. Put it on Revolver. I mean, that's the kind of bettor you want. No, everything goes again. You know what? I'm going to go with Houston now. Okay, cool. You got a chance to
I got to
make
go
it
with
right.
Houston.
That's cool.
Next week, we're going to have Danielle Williams on.
Danielle Williams, she's a comic from Arizona and also a television celebrity. More importantly, Frank, she's a girl with a huge heart. I mean, just the comedy scene in Phoenix is a little cutthroat, you know, and most, I guess, show business competition is a little cutthroat. People get jealous about other people winning, but you wouldn't know anything about that. But but nobody ever, I think, resented anything nice that happened to Danielle because she's that sweet, and she's a cancer survivor. She was diagnosed. First of all, she's, I guess, about 40 years old, Danielle, and beautiful girl in great shape, hikes every day, never smoked, and diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer.
Wow, it'll be an interesting show.
And just brave and just, I mean, it's at the heart of a lion, Frank. I mean, she's going to be a very interesting guest.
Great. And before we go, we'll just give, if these lips could talk, one more shot.
Just listen to Jim.
You have to follow Jim's lead.
Follow Jim's lead.
It'll take you to the promised land.
It'll take you to the Emmys. Read this book and you'll end up getting an Emmy.
Well, or at least be nominated. All right. Thank you so much. We got all the business done, Derek.
We got it done.
Thanks very much for looking into a.
And thank you, Derek, for another great job.
Yes, Derek, great job. Mick the Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks
guys.
for your input on COVID. We'll pass it on to all the scientists.
That's our show. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Next week's guest, Phoenix stand-up comedian Danielle Williams.
We'll see you next week.